Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General here. Thank you for coming on short notice. I want to start by thanking my incredible colleagues and allies in this important ongoing fight for being here. We're going to be announcing some important action we're taking in partnership in the legislature in response to the Bruen decision, which you know came out this morning. I want to thank Senator Portantino, who will be speaking shortly, who is authoring a bill, AB 918, to address the issues flagged and raised in the Bruen decision. Senator Bradford, our Public Safety Chair in the Senate, is here as well. He'll be speaking. Assemblymember Joan Sawyer, our Public Safety Assembly Chair, is here and will be speaking. Assemblymember Gibson is here in support as well. We also have Assemblymember Mia Bonta, Assemblymember McCarty, Assemblymember Rodriguez, and Becca Gonzalez, Brady Sacramento chapter, all standing here in support and in collaboration, teaming up in response to help make sure that we do what we've been doing for many, many years, keeping California safe from gun violence. And since assuming office, my number one priority has been protecting the safety and the well-being of all Californians. That's why at the California Department of Justice, we are seizing illegally possessed firearms out of the hands of dangerous individuals. That is why we are cracking down on ghost guns and keeping weapons of war off our streets, again in partnership with some of the great leaders up here like Assemblymember Gibson, who's been an absolute champion addressing ghost guns. And that's why we've been preparing for this moment, this Supreme Court decision, for months. Today's decision does not change the facts, the data, the evidence that we are all too familiar with. The data is clear. More guns in more places means more people die as a result of gun violence. Period. Full stop. That is settled. That is undisputable. Gun violence is now the #1 cause of death for adolescents and young adults in America. The #1 cause of death for our young people, our babies, our children. It's despicable. It's unacceptable. It's shameful. And most importantly, it's entirely preventable. Strong gun safety laws save lives. California's gun safety laws work. They save lives. And that's why we're here today. Today, I'm announcing that my office, in close coordination with the governor's office and our leaders in the Senate and in the Assembly, all together, speaking with one voice, are preparing legislation to keep California safe, consistent with the court's opinion in Bruen today. Because while this decision is no doubt a setback for the safety of Americans, it also affirmed the rights that states maintain to protect our people. It leaves us with options to protect our families, and we intend to use those options. The legislation framework we are announcing today does two main things. First, it specifies the places where concealed firearms cannot be carried. Because if you are in a voting booth, in a courthouse, at a school, your right to vote, to visit your children, to go to school, to live without fear of gun violence and to live without gun violence should not be trumped by a person's right to carry a firearm. So the legislation is going to look at and identify and enumerate places where firearms cannot be carried. Second, the legislation will also clarify the qualifications for obtaining a concealed carry permit in California. The Bruen case reaffirmed that it is appropriate for states to require a concealed carry weapon permit. And we are going to provide additional detail about what safety requirements are required to have a concealed carry weapon permit. And until today, an applicant had to demonstrate good cause in California. While that is no longer constitutional, under the Bruen decision today, the court did not disturb California's longstanding efforts to prevent dangerous individuals from obtaining these permits. So in California, we're going to make it clear that an assessment of dangerousness is an essential element of the concealed carry application process. The assessment is going to be robust, including looking at arrests, convictions, restraining orders, and other publicly available information that might suggest that a person poses a danger to themselves or to others. We're going to be using background checks, fingerprinting, We're going to require firearms training and requirement of meeting a mental health standard, all allowable under the Bruen decision. In short, today's opinion has made it clear that states like California still have many venues to prevent senseless death and keep our families safe from gun violence, and we're going to use those avenues. In California, we have the strongest gun laws in the nation, and we also have some of the safest streets in the nation. That is no accident. That is not random. Those things are connected. They are causal. We intend to keep our strong record, and we intend to keep our families safe by pursuing the avenues the Supreme Court has illuminated for us today. Because this is about what matters most, public safety and the well-being of our families. And with that, I want to thank you and introduce our next speaker, who is going to be Senator Portantino.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm State Senator Anthony Portantino, and I want to start by thanking Attorney General Bonta for having the foresight of getting us prepared for this moment. Unfortunately, we knew this day was coming. We knew that the Supreme Court was going to be dealing with the New York decision and states' rights and abilities to regulate CCWs, open carry, and other gun legislation. And the Attorney General's office and the Governor's office saw that this day was coming, and we were prepared. Much like as the legislature was prepared in the wake of the Roe decision, we're prepared in the wake of this New York Supreme Court decision that came out today. We have the legislation. It's SB 918. Our hope is that as the Attorney General's office and my office review the fine print of the decision today, we'll be adding amendments as the Attorney General outlined in those two broad categories. And our hope is to have the bill heard as early as Tuesday in the Assembly Public Safety Committee. That's our goal. And then we want to get it on the Governor's desk as quickly as possible thereafter. California, as been said, is the nation's leader in gun control, in sensible, prudent gun control and making families safe on Main Street, California. And our laws do work. We are the envy of progressive states that understand that gun control makes our neighborhoods safe. And one person's Second Amendment right does not infringe upon that family's right to be in the same space. And that's why that category that we're going to talk about is prohibited spaces matters, because you should have an expectation when you take your family to a park, to a school, to where you congregate. You should have that expectation that your children are not going to be put in danger. And so we're going to codify that in this legislation. The Supreme Court also ruled that you can have non-subjective criteria, and we are going to emphasize that criteria: your criminal history, your mental capacity, who you are as an individual. As long as we define it in less subjective terms, will hold up in future Supreme Courts. And so we're going to use that decision this morning to make sure that California's laws, and I frankly have been the author of California's open carry ban on handguns and long guns, and we believe those will stand up because many of those provisions have been incorporated into those bills in the past. But anything going forward, we are going to align with the Supreme Court decision today to make sure that California's commitment to making families safe on Main Street, California, stays and gets expanded. And so having the Governor's office, the Attorney General's office, my Assembly colleagues, Moms Demand Action, Brady Campaign, the coalition work collaboratively between today and Tuesday to make sure that we put the strongest possible bill that will maintain a Supreme Court scrutiny on the Governor's desk is our goal. Let me say that again. It is our goal to move quickly, to move prudently, and to move decisively to make sure that your families are protected on Main Street, California, as intended by just common sense and being a good neighbor. So again, I just want to thank the Attorney General and his staff for having the foresight to get this through the committee. My colleague in the Senate, Senator Bradford, passed the bill earlier in the year to get it out of the Senate, and now it's in Mr. Jones Sawyer's committee, which we'll hear it on Tuesday. This is a bicameral collaboration between all of us up here to make sure that we do the right thing and take this decision and make sure that Californians are protected going forward, and that to show again that our laws work. So thank you very much for being out here, and I look forward to answering any questions as we go forward.
Thank you. Senator Bradford.
Thank you, Attorney General Bonta. And I just will echo what has been stated already by both the Attorney General and my colleague, Senator Portantino. As chair of the Senate Public Safety and as the Legislative Black Caucus, this is a priority for us to make sure that we bring forth sensible gun legislation that will make all of our communities safe and make this country safe. And I think California can be the fine example of what responsible gun laws look like. We have demonstrated that and will continue to do so. So I'm honored to stand here with many of the legislators who have authored those measures that are making their way through both houses right now, and I look forward to the opportunity not only to have a robust hearing on these issues, but also moving this legislation forward so the governor can affix its signature to it real soon. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Senator. Assemblymember Jones Sawyer.
I also want to thank Attorney General Bonta. What you see here is when government works. This is what happens when everybody comes together to make sure that the public is safe. Just weeks after one of the deadliest shootings in American history took place in Uvalde, Texas, the Supreme Court announced a 6-3 decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen. This decision removes the requirement that an individual show proper cause or specified need to carry a concealed weapon. This decision affects similar laws in 1/4 of the states, including California, meaning that individuals will be allowed to receive concealed carry weapons in public places merely because they want to. The increase of guns in public places threatens public safety and severely weakens the state's ability to enact laws that protect citizens. That is unacceptable in California. As chair of the Assembly Committee on Public Safety, I'm working with my colleagues in the legislature and our Attorney General to address concerns around gun safety. In the coming days, we will be introducing legislation in response to this legislation. California will not sit idly by and risk the health and safety of our residents. I have already worked with my colleagues to advance a package of gun bills, including legislation that, 1, restricts advertising firearms to minors, restricts ghost guns and ghost gun parts, allows government and victims of gun violence to sue manufacturers and sellers of firearms for damages, allows individuals to sue to limit the spread of illegal weapons and ghost guns. This is in addition to budget items proposed by the legislature this year: expedite gun violence restraining orders at all court trials, provide local funding to support gun buyback programs, expand the gun violence research taking place at the Firearms Violence Research Center, and provide over $50 million in victim support funds. These policies work. As you heard from the previous speaker, these policies work. California was ranked #1 in gun safety in 2021 and had a 37% lower gun death rate than the national average. The gun death rate for children is 58% lower than the national average. There's still work to do, and a single gun death is way, way too many. As we say in many other issues, in other issue areas, when looking for leadership, you should look west to California, as we are an example of how to properly balance constitutional rights with critical public safety protections. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Gibson.
First, let me say thank you very much to Attorney General Rob Bonta, to our governor for having stand up with a large voice and have courage and lead California, to all the tiers of leadership from our pro tem in the Senate, Tony Atkins, and our Speaker Anthony Rendon. Mike Gibson, I represent the 64th State Assembly District, and also I chair the Assembly Democratic Caucus. The governor said it best in a tweet: "It's a dark day in America." It's a dark day that we have to now face what a Supreme Court has done to try to roll back. And it's another indication that the gun lobbyists are stronger than the people's voices. The faces you saw of the 19 children in Texas, the 10 African Americans that was killed in Buffalo, New York, here in Sacramento, a father killed his 3 daughters at a church here in Sacramento with a ghost gun. The list just goes on and on. My own son walking down the street on a Sunday morning of April the 5th, 2020. He and his fiance was confronted in a drive-by shooting. My son was shot twice. His fiance was shot once in the leg. Gary, 52 years old, a father of two. Gary was killed in that same shooting. And so the picture I'm trying to paint right now it will be a very vivid picture for all Americans to see, because when you arm people who should not have guns and have access to guns, this is what we're going to have to get used to, or try to get used to. And so they made a mistake. They made a crucial mistake by making a decision that hurts the very people that we're trying to help and save lives, not only in California, but across this nation. And so I stand with some courageous leaders. California, mark my words, will continue to lead the way to make sure that Californians are safe. But we call on the federal government to do their job. We call on the federal government to enact sensible gun legislation that protect all Americans.
Thank you. Assemblymember Bonta.
This is a family affair. Assemblymember Mike Gibson just demonstrated that. My name is Mia Bonta. I represent the 18th Assembly District, which includes the people of Oakland, San Leandro, and Alameda. This morning, we woke up to a horrendously tone-deaf decision issued by the U.S. Supreme Court. This decision directly overturned a concealed carry law in New York, the state where I grew up, and also jeopardizes California's concealed carry laws. And I'm thankful that here in California, we will make sure that this unfathomable instance will be held correctly. Instead of upholding a law that has kept our community safe, the U.S. Supreme Court has opted to expose our communities in California and across the nation, to further violence and fear. In his majority opinion, Justice Thomas said that going forward, the government may not simply posit that the regulation promotes an important interest. Well, how about the important interest of feeling safe in our places of worship? The important interest of feeling safe at our schools and in our grocery stores and in our communities. This decision will only make things worse. We are living through a moment that demands we take action. Since January, we have witnessed over 200 mass shootings across the country. And that includes the massacre of teachers and children in Uvalde, Texas, the targeted killings of Black people in Buffalo, New York, and a mass shooting just a few blocks from here in Sacramento, and the almost daily killings and injuries of people, including in my district. In 2022, we have already lost 9,378 people to gun violence, including 168 children and 624 teenagers. How can the U.S. Supreme Court make such a reckless decision in the midst of the largest rise in gun homicides since 1960? So I, along with my colleagues here, want to be clear that gun violence is a public health crisis that has plagued our nation for far too long. And I stand here in solidarity with all the victims and survivors that have been impacted by the epidemic of gun violence, with our communities who have to live on a daily basis with hearing the incidents of gun violence in their communities, in our communities, for communities of color, including my constituents, having borne the brunt of this epidemic for far too long. I want to thank the Attorney General's office and Senator Portantino, our governor, our leadership on the Assembly and the Senate side, in recognizing the way in which, once again, California can be and will be America's last stand, the U.S.'s last stand when it comes to gun violence.
Assemblymember McCarty.
Thank you, Attorney General, for gathering us to allow us to quickly respond. You know, more guns is not going to make us safer in California and America. And the Supreme Court did get it wrong. They think by having potentially 40 million people, half those adults, 20 million people, armed was going to make us a safer place. That's categorically false. We know that in California, individuals are more likely to be safe. People in states that don't have California's laws are twice as likely to be victims of gun crimes. Our gun laws work here in California. And make no mistake, California will answer the call. And why does this matter? Let me give you an illustration. I represent Sacramento County here. For many years, our sheriff issued concealed weapon permits because you had to show a reason. You had a boyfriend or husband that was stalking you. You had a job that sent you in the middle of the neighborhoods that weren't safe in the middle of the night to go do some work. You had multiple reasons to show that you needed the concealed weapon permit. Well, about 10 years ago, we went from about 400 concealed weapons per year to roughly 4,000. So anybody that pretty much had a heartbeat was able to get one. I authored legislation that was signed by Governor Bruen that says that counties must charge adequate fees to pay for background checks. Why does that matter? Because one of those people that got a concealed weapon permit here in Sacramento who had a heartbeat, they didn't do a proper background check. They didn't see that on his Facebook page, he was up in the foothills here doing target practice with an assault rifle, talking about taking out government, talking about harming government. Luckily, the house cleaner at the Hyatt was cleaning his room and found, an arsenal on the bed. Guns, bullets, ammunition. He was going to try to have an attack on the state capitol. He had a concealed weapon permit that didn't go through a proper background check. So the laws that we are going to further and strengthen will make sure that individuals who have this unbelievably rare, right, but it's really an obligation to make sure everybody is safe to carry a gun. It impacts all of us as well. So we are prepared to answer the call. I thank the Attorney General and Senator Portantino, and I will be working with this to make sure this becomes law this year. Thank you.
Let me just say thank you again to all of my recently former colleagues in the legislature and leaders throughout California, advocates for coming together on short notice to meet the moment, to answer the call, to rise to the occasion demanded of us, to keep California safe, consistent with our values, to make sure we continue to be the leader that this state and this nation needs when it comes to enhancing gun safety and addressing gun violence.